Mary Beth Taylor,
Here.
Brian Bangert, Michael Kuritz,
I see him.
Mike, you need to say here.
Move over the button.
wave your hand, Mike, if you're present.
It'll be an interesting night.
Mike Kuritz, can you hear me?
We'll bring him in. We see him.
Okay, Rick Dean,
Here, and I just got a text from Brian that he plans to join.
okay, thank you. Julia Turner,
Here.
Jim Finnegan,
Here.
Ruth Novosad,
Here.
We have 6 members so we can conduct business. Has everyone looked at the meeting, minutes from the last meeting?
Yes.
Someone want to make a motion for approval?
I move they be approved as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Dean, a second by Taylor. Can we have a roll call vote?
Taylor,
Yes.
Kuritz,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Finnegan,
Yes,
Novosad.
Yes.
motion passed. Is anyone asked to present anything that's not on the agenda tonight, Phil?
No one is asked to speak on anything not on the agenda.
All right, so we'll move on. We're going to affirm our staff at this time. Do solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that the testimony she given in this case now in hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, or you suffer the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
All right.
I have a statement that I'd like to read, Mr. Finnegan, if I could.
Sure.
I do. Did we notice that Mr. Bangert is present and it is about 8 minutes after? Thank you.
We're going to dock him.
Sorry about that.
We're just glad he's here.
Okay, I'll note that for the record. If the cases heard tonight are finished and the ZBA has discussed them and voted on them, the cases will be considered complete. If a case is not finished, or if the go-to-meeting system crashes, or the ZBA members are not able to adequately communicate before a vote is taken on a case by the ZBA, the case will be continued until 7 p.m. on Wednesday, April 7, 2021. Please contact the Department of Building and Zoning at 309-888-5160 for a link to this meeting or attend the meeting in person. The ZBA bylaws allow the chair to impose time limits on opening, closing, or other statements, questions, or any portion of the proceedings. The chair will limit questioning of witnesses to 1 series of questions per person per witness. A note for those watching via YouTube live stream. The YouTube stream is not an interactive medium. Any comments on the YouTube live stream are not monitored and will not be addressed in the meeting. Please mute your phones or computers and turn your cameras off unless you are on the ZBA or you are approved to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Would you like to call the first case? Case SU 2101.
Yes, this is case number SU-18-08, application of Kuntz Byproducts LLC for a special use to allow an agricultural processing facility, which is animal feed processing in the agricultural district. This is on property in the southeast quarter, section 5, township 26 north, range 4 east to the third principal meridian, and located in Chenoa Township at 31258 north, 2550 East Road, Chenoa, Illinois. Public notice of this hearing was published in the Panagraph on April 14, 2018, as provided by law. All the other required notifications have been made, and the applicant has paid the publication cost. The first is the application, and it includes a legal description of the property and includes the different partners, including Roland Kuntz, Richard Kuntz, Russell Kuntz, Jacob Kuntz, David Kuntz, Nathan Kuntz, Mark Kuntz, and Benjamin Kuntz. And we have a land evaluation and site assessment report. This was originally approved in case SU. Just one moment, please. I want to read the introduction slightly different because the application is to amend and expand special use case SU-1808 for an agricultural processing facility. This is on the property that I addressed below. And the exhibits are the application and a plat map showing where this property is located in Chenoa Township, an aerial map, and the applicant has submitted a site plan showing where the addition is going to be proposed for this facility. And a sign off from the road commissioner indicating that the road commissioner is fine with the expansion of the facility and that they've worked out an agreement. Are using the same entrance off of 2550 East Road. So Tim Killian has signed off on that. The county health department has signed off on it, and a plat land evaluation and site assessment report was completed. And we have aerial photos of the property. The area outlined in red is where this property is located, and you can see the village of the city of Chenoa there on the east of the property. And this is across the road from the elevator across the road to the east. And this is 2550E facing south toward Route 24. And then facing the other way. And you can see the grain elevator on the right and the proposed expansion of facility on the left across the railroad tracks. And that's the grain elevator to the east. And this is also the grain elevator. And across the street is the Kuntz Byproducts facility. And this is the scale where they weigh the trucks loaded and unloaded. And the expansion will be toward us on this side of the building. And as you're going down the road, this is the view from the east facing west, and this is facing southwest. And if you look on the right side in the great distance, there is the village, the unincorporated village of Meadows. and I'll deliver the staff report at this time. The property has approximately 1,470 feet of frontage on the west side of 2550 East Road. The topography is relatively flat. It drains to the east. The vegetation is crop production except where the facility is located. The public road is an asphalt road 24 feet in width from the entrance to Route 24. The surrounding zoning is agriculture district on all sides. The surrounding land use to the north is crop production and a farm dwelling. To the east is a grain processing facility. To the south is crop production, and to the west is crop production. The soil report for the land evaluation and site assessment had an 82.88 points out of a maximum 100. The site assessment is 160 points out of a maximum possible evaluation of 200, giving a total score of 242.88 points out of 300. A score above 230 means that the property is of high value for agricultural land protection. The standards in the county code as they apply to this request is as follows. A, the proposed special use will not be detrimental to or endanger the health, safety, morals, comfort, or welfare of the public. This standard is met. The agricultural processing facility approved in case SU-1808 processes locally grown corn, soybeans, and ingredients into feed for animals. The applicant wants to expand the facility in two phases. One, the construction of a warehouse and loadout facility, and two, the construction of grain handling facilities. The subject property is across 2550 East Road from the Prairie Central Co-op grain elevator. The properties to the northwest and south are in crop production. A farm dwelling is located approximately 500 feet north of the proposed facility. Nearby properties will not likely be negatively impacted by the expansion of this facility. B, the proposed special use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the vicinity for purposes already permitted or substantially diminish property values in the area. This standard is met. The expansion of this animal feed processing facility will continue to be compatible with the grain elevator across the road and nearby properties in crop production. C, the proposed special use will not impede the orderly development of the surrounding property for uses permitted in the district, and this standard is met. The proposed animal feed processing facility is located close to where the supply of grains for the processing facility are grown and close to livestock operations where the feed is used. D, the adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been or will be provided. This standard is met. The Prairie Central Co-op has improved Road 2550 East Road from the southern entrance of the proposed facility to US Route 24 to IDOT's local road design standards for an 80,000-pound all-weather road and for improvement of the intersection of Road 2550 East Road and US Route 24. The applicant has a road agreement with Prairie Central Co-op and the Chinoa Township to maintain 2550 East Road. E, adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress, egress, so designed as to minimize traffic congestion in the public streets, and this standard is met. The applicant has obtained approval from the Chinoa Township Road Commissioner to expand the use of this facility and to use the existing entrance to 2550 East Road. F, the establishment, maintenance, and operation of the special use will be in conformance with the intent of the agriculture district, and this standard is met. The intent of the agriculture district states, quote, provide for the location and govern the establishment and operation of land uses which are compatible with agriculture and are such a nature that their location away from residential, commercial, and industrial areas is most desirable, unquote. The proposed special use in all other respects conforms to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located, and this standard is met. In conclusion, staff recommends that this application meets the standards set forth in the county code.
Thank you, Phil. Are you guys here to talk about the case?
Just if they have questions.
Why don't you come up? Would you like to be affirmed or sworn in?
Affirmed.
Do you solemnly swear, and do you solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that the testimony given in this case now and hearing will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, or you suffer the pains and penalties of perjury?
I affirm.
Would you state your name and address for the record?
Roland Kuntz, 12022 East, 950 North Road, Chinoa, Illinois.
Did you get that, Phil?
Mr. Coons, could you spell your first name and read your address again, please?
First name's Rollin, Rollyn. Last name's Kuntz, Kuntz, 12022 East, 950 North Road, Chinoa, Illinois, 61726.
Thank you.
Would you like to make an opening statement?
I don't really have a lot to present, other than if you have any questions, I'd be willing to answer them. That the house that they talked about in that right north of the property, I approached the landowner the last time, and that house was unoccupied. They was debating whether to tear it down, and nobody's been in that house since. So we're a long ways from a residence.
Okay. Anything else you want to say?
Not unless they have questions.
Just hang on there. Would anyone on the board have questions of this witness? See any? Bill, would you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Would anyone in the audience or in go to meeting land have questions of this witness or want to give testimony? I guess we got one from the county, from Julia. We have one. You're not coming through. She said, go ahead, honey.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question if I could.
Sure.
Do you want me to
Yeah,
swear and all that good stuff?
Maybe step back there. You just state your name and address for the record.
All right. James Holdner, 201 South Main Street, Ellsworth, Illinois. Do I need to swear or anything?
No,
Okay.
not as long as you give a question.
Okay, yeah. Do you foresee ever a time that you're going to have an overhead auger or tube or anything going from your facility to the grain elevator across the road?
You can come up and answer.
Sorry.
That, we right now, we truck the corn right across the road from Prairie Central, and the long-term plan is to add storage on our side of the road. So, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
It was thrown out as an idea, as an easy way to move corn across the road, but our plan, and it's in here, the second phase of this would be to add storage on our side of the road. And Prairie Central was fine with that.
And sorry, one more. Do you ever foresee a time where there might be a rail run from the grain elevator over to your facility?
No, I do not. Our facility, we handle waste byproducts out of food facilities, so we try to replace a lot of corn with bakery, like out of cookie facilities, peanuts, product that would normally go to a landfill, and we make it into hog feed. So we try to reduce the amount of corn we're using as much as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have questions? Julia's got one, but we can't hear her.
I think you can hear me now.
I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. That was, you hit on my question a little bit. I'm pretty ignorant as to this stuff. So could you tell me what goes into animal feed and what kind of byproducts you would be using at this facility?
Well, you try to balance the ration with energy and protein and the vitamins and minerals. So we use a nutritionist that helps us balance the rations. There's still a lot of corn used in the diet. I'm trying to think, we're probably running about 30,000 bushel a week right now. But we try to replace some of that corn. A lot of hog farmers use corn, soybean meal, which are both Illinois products. And then a lot of hog farmers add fat to that corn to increase the energy. We get that fat out of food products. There's a reason Americans are fat. They eat a lot of fat. Cookies are high in fat. They're higher in fat than corn is. So we get a lot of our energy. We use cookies, croissants, anything we can get out of a bakery that they're going to throw in the landfill. Donuts, peanuts from Fisher Nut up in Elgin. Actually, we feed some candy to our hogs. Tootsie Rolls, mayonnaise. I'm sure I'm forgetting some.
Are there any animal byproducts?
No, it's all human food waste that comes out of the factory, not waste like out of a restaurant, but waste from a factory, a cookie that's overbaked or misshapen or doesn't weigh the right amount, it all gets pitched out. And we're trying to put that to good use.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? I don't see any. You want to make a closing statement?
You'd be welcome to come take a tour.
Okay. Thank you. We'll call this part of the meeting closed so we can deliberate on the case. I think we can probably go right to the standards if we want to do that. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, let's go to standards.
Okay. Standard number 1. Just put your hand up if you think he needs it. Standard number 2. Standard number 3. Standard number 4. Standard number 5. 6. And 7. We want to make a motion.
I'll move that this case be approved. I'll try to find that number for you. If you help me out, Phil.
21-01.
21-01. Thank you, Julia.
I'll second it.
So we have by Dean, a second by Kurt. We're ready for a roll call vote.
Taylor,
Yes.
Bangert,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes,
Finnegan,
Yes.
Novosad.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. Bill can explain what the next part of it is.
This goes on the consent agenda that goes to the county board on April 15th in the evening. And unless one of the county board members pulls it off, it will stay on the consent agenda, and you can call our office on the 16th to find out the result, but they will vote on it on the 15th. You don't need to attend that meeting. If you did, you probably won't be able to speak anyway. It will probably be done remotely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next case, ZA 2101.
This is case number ZA-21-01, application of Sapphire Sky Wind Energy LLC by Invenergy LLC for a text amendment of the zoning ordinance of the Code of McLean County, Chapter 350, zoning section 350-43, 00 parentheses 2J, use standards for height, and the permitted height of a WECS, which is a wind energy conservation system, tower shall not exceed 590 feet, 5 feet rather than 550 feet as currently allowed. Public notice of this hearing was published in the Normalite on March 18, 2021, and the Pantograph on March 20, 2021, as provided by law, and the applicant has paid the publication costs. We have the application and the proposed text amendment and a staff report that indicates the applicant proposes to develop a wind energy conversion system, or a WECS, in McLean County, and proposes to use wind turbines that are greater in height than 550 feet, as is allowed in the McLean County Code. The applicant indicates that if turbines are taller than the 550 feet allowed by the zoning ordinance, fewer turbines would be necessary, which would result in reduced impact during construction, which would require less land taken out of crop production. The applicant indicates that taller turbines capture the wind at a higher elevation where wind speeds are greater, which would result in increased turbine efficiency. Setbacks for turbines are based on tower height. As a result, taller turbines would require greater setback requirements. For example, a WECS tower is required to be set back 3 times the tower height from an occupied residence. In conclusion, staff recommends approval of the proposed text amendment.
Okay.
The applicant has submitted some exhibits on April 1, which we put on the website, and they're going to be too lengthy to be able to read or to propose, but they include a FAA determination of no hazard, an aviation systems letter, a noise analysis report, a proposed turbine specification, economic impact study, a Bellflower siting agreement, and Leroy Board of Education resolution in support of the project.
No, you have, Phil.
I have some letters that I will introduce after the applicant proposes or makes their presentation. The other thing that we need the zoning board to decide is if they want or will allow the applicant to use a PowerPoint presentation, given the remote nature of this hearing. So you need to make a decision whether or not you want to accept them to be able to use a PowerPoint presentation.
You're going to have to explain that to us. So is that something that people can see at home or not?
And Mr. Chairman, we're prepared to go ahead without using the PowerPoints.
So does that answer the question, Phil?
It's they had presented.
Jim,
given us a
we can see it. It's just the people on the phone.
I don't know who was talking, but it didn't come through very good.
Said we can see it, but the people on the phone cannot see it.
Mr. Finnegan, since the presentation was put on the website, it's okay. Also, 404 is open to the public, and so the presentation can go forward. I don't think there's any problems as far as violating any of the rules. It's just up to you if you would like to see it or just hear it.
Why don't you explain that to the board?
Hello. I was just explaining to the chair here that since the materials were placed on the website ahead of time, I don't think there's any violation as far as allowing the presentation to be given visually at this point, since members of the public have had access to that prior to today. It's still on the website as we speak. Also, 404 is open to the public, so public could come in if they so chose. So that being said, I don't think there's any rules violations if we go ahead and with the visual presentation. It's just your preference if you would prefer to just listen versus see that as well.
One correction, Ms. Vasquez, is the PowerPoint presentation we did not receive until this afternoon, and it isn't on the website. It's the other documents that I had entered, which are on the website.
Okay, well, I haven't seen the PowerPoint presentation. It's my understanding that all the information presented is going to be the same. And if that's not correct, then someone correct me.
Do you want to answer that question?
The information in the PowerPoints is going to be drawn from the exhibits that we had presented. But again, we're prepared to proceed ahead without the PowerPoints. We don't want to cause any confusion and make this process more difficult to follow. We appreciate you doing it in this hybrid method so that we can move the case forward.
Okay, I think it's up to the board. You guys can decide what we want to do. So you want to have a vote on it?
No, can we just do consensus that we're gonna pass on the PowerPoint?
Okay with everybody?
Fine with me.
We're gonna pass on the PowerPoint, it sounds like. So at this point, would you like to be sworn in? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're giving us in that case now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Would you state your name and address for the record?
My name is James Griffin, 70 West Madison Street, Chicago, Illinois, Suite 2300. And my last name is spelled Griffin.
I think Phil's got it, but it's not the first time you've been here. But we'll wait until he tells us.
Okay, I'm good.
He says he's good. So
All right.
if you want to make an opening statement, go ahead.
I'll do that. Thank you. Good evening. My name again is Jim Griffin. I'm with the law firm of Shane Banks here representing Sapphire Sky Wind Energy LLC. What's before you is a proposed text amendment to increase the maximum wind turbine tip height from the existing limit of 550 feet to 595 feet. The Sapphire Sky project is now owned by an Invenergy affiliate. It was purchased at the end of 2020 from Geronimo Energy, the prior owner of the project. The Sapphire Sky Wind Energy project is being developed in southeast McLean County, and Invenergy has been working diligently since the purchase of the project on taking the project to its final development stage and preparing it for a special use application to be submitted to the county, and that has now been achieved. I want to start my statement by pointing out the differences from the Geronimo text amendment that the zoning board heard last year, which was also to increase the turbine tip height. First, the height increase that's being proposed is substantially less than what Geronimo proposed, 595 feet versus 675 feet in the Geronimo application. So it's a 45 feet increase versus the Geronimo proposed increase of 125. And this is only an 8% increase that's being sought above your current limit, where Geronimo was a 23% increase. So it's a substantial reduction. Secondly, the specific turbine models that would be used in the Sapphire Sky project and their heights are now identified by Sapphire Sky. This project will use Vestas 4.2 megawatt turbines with an approximate 591 foot tip height, and Vestas 3.6 megawatt turbines with an approximate 568 feet tip height. The Vestas 4.2 megawatt, the larger turbine, will be predominantly used, and most of the turbine sites will be utilized with that 4.2 megawatt turbine. The Sapphire Sky Special Use application has been completed, and the reports and studies required for that application have been completed and are ready to be submitted to the county, subject, of course, to the text amendment being approved. Because those reports and that information has been completed, we're able to provide the zoning board with information that Geronimo Energy wasn't able to provide, such as what are the noise impacts, what are the shadow flicker impacts, and other information that I know was not able to be provided last year. And we think this information is going to assist the zoning board in making its decision today. So let me point out some of the exhibits that Mr. Dick referenced that we had submitted and have been posted on the website. First is a specification sheet, which provides the specifications for the 4.2 megawatt turbine and the 3.6 megawatt turbine, including the tip height, the blade length, and the hub height. So it's got all the specifications. We also submitted design conformity statements for each of the two turbines being proposed for the project, the 3.6 and the 4.2. Now, a design conformity statement is a third-party review and analysis of the turbines that are being proposed that confirms they meet industry standards for safety and performance. Under the McLean County zoning ordinance in section 002G1A, an applicant shall submit certificates of design compliance from equipment manufacturers that they have obtained from third parties who analyze and test these machines, such as DNV. And we have presented in two exhibits the DNV design conformity statement, which certifies that these turbines meet all of the safety and performance standards in the industry. These are not experimental or prototype turbines. They are turbines that have been tested and are being utilized and installed in projects across the country today. A major difference from the Geronimo text amendment is also the availability of the sound emission model and study that's been performed for the project. Hankard Environmental prepared a sound modeling report for this project, and that's been submitted as an exhibit. And that report confirms that with these turbines, as proposed, this project will satisfy the county's noise standard requirements. And Mr. Hankard is one of the witnesses that is going to testify tonight. And through Mr. Hankard's testimony, you'll learn that taller turbines are not necessarily louder turbines. And in this case, they are not louder turbines. They're actually quieter than turbine models of a lesser height due to advances in design and the way that the turbine is designed to operate. This project has also received FAA approval. These are exhibits that we have submitted, the DNHs, those are the determinations of no hazard. Those are statements by the FAA that the turbines at this height will not pose a threat to aviation safety. And we've also included a letter from the project's aviation consultant confirming what the impact of those FAA DNHs are. So there are no issues with these taller turbines from the FAA's perspective on aviation safety. The environmental consultation with IDNR has also been completed for the project, and we've submitted as exhibits the two letters that the county has received from IDNR. Those letters include some recommendations for the project, and the project can confirm that all of those recommendations will be complied with as part of the project. So no environmental issues have been identified through the use of these turbines in this particular site. Shadow flicker information is now available. We have presented as an exhibit the shadow flicker study. This study confirms that these turbines will meet, as designed by this project, a 30-hour voluntary annual shadow flicker limit. This is a similar voluntary limit that other projects in the county that have been approved have utilized, including Invenergy's Blooming Grove project, which was recently constructed and is now operational. Through taking the project through the final design phase, as has been done, we can also certify that these turbines and this project design will meet all of the other requirements of the McLean County zoning ordinance, including setbacks, which, as Mr. Dick referenced, setbacks increase proportionate to the turbine height. 1.1 times turbine height for property lines and roads, 3 times turbine height for residences. So even though the turbines are taller, the setbacks increase proportionately, and this project will meet those setbacks. So now I want to introduce Mr. Greg Vanderkamp. He's the lead project developer, and he's going to be providing testimony about the Sapphire Sky project and why this text amendment is essential to this project. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna have to swear you in. Sure. You solemnly swear that the testimony is given, that you will give in this case now and hearing be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Would you state your name and address for the record?
Greg Vanderkamp, 1 South Wacker, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. All right, good evening.
Wait a minute. Have you got it?
Spell your name. Could you spell your name, Mr. Vanderkamp?
Greg, Greg, Vanderkamp, V as in Victor, ANDER, space KAMP.
Thank you.
You can go ahead now, thanks.
Thank you. As I mentioned, my name is Greg Vanderkamp. I'm the lead project developer of the Sapphire Sky wind project that we're here to discuss today. Really quickly, I just wanted to thank the Zoning Board of Appeals time. Thank you for spending the time reviewing this application and reviewing all the information. There's a lot to consider here, and we appreciate your thoughtfulness as you consider this height increase. So really quickly about Invenergy, as well as myself, we have some significant experience in Illinois. We're an Illinois-based company, headquartered in Chicago. I actually live in Chicago at the moment. Please don't hold that against me. But I'm an Illinois resident and have been for my entire life. We've had some significant experience in McLean County itself. We've built 2 wind projects to date. The Blooming Grove project most recently went operational in December of 2020. I was the lead project developer for that project as well. And then our other project in the county is the White Oak Wind project, which has been operational since 2007. So we're really excited about the opportunity to work with McLean one more time with the Sapphire Sky Wind project, which could begin operations as early as next year. So why are we here today? We're talking about the current ordinance tip height allowance, which is 550 feet. We're asking for a 45-foot increase to host these turbines for the Sapphire Sky project. But what are the benefits of these larger turbines? Well, first, you need less of them to achieve the same megawatt output or electricity output for the project. So let's use a real world example. Let's use the Blooming Grove project, as I mentioned, operational last year. That project required 94 turbines to generate 250 megawatts worth of electricity. Sapphire Sky, same project size, 250 megawatts. It'll only need 64 turbines. So that's a 30% reduction in turbines, 30 less turbines to achieve the same output of electricity. What that means is there's reduced visual impact, less turbines on the horizon, less agricultural impact. There'll be less turbines in fields, there'll be less collection lines in fields, there'll be less access roads in fields, and less environmental impacts due to fewer turbines and less infrastructure, again, on the horizon. But most importantly, tax revenue is not impacted. As you all are I'm sure are familiar, the state of Illinois has a state funding formula in how it taxes wind projects. That is a function of megawatts of electricity created by the project and not the number of turbines. So regardless of number of turbines, the tax revenue stays the same and is based on the output. Why is a height increase necessary? Why do we need to go slightly taller with these turbines? Well, a few reasons. One, industry trends are moving towards taller, more efficient turbines. A rule of thumb is the higher up in altitude that you go, wind speed tends to increase. So turbines that are slightly taller are able to generate more electricity more efficiently and more electricity per turbine. Again, that results in fewer turbines necessary or needed to achieve the same output. Finally, numerous Illinois counties in central Illinois are moving towards or allowing slightly taller turbines. So this Sapphire Sky project might be a great project. We might be able to get a permit to build the project, but we're still competing against other projects in the vicinity and still trying to find someone to buy the power from the project. And in order to do that, we need to achieve those same cost efficiencies and electricity efficiencies at that slightly taller height. So something I wanted to show the ZBA today was a comparison, a size comparison, a visual of what a generic 550-foot turbine looks like versus a 591-foot turbine, which is what we're proposing at the Sapphire Sky project. I'll just have to describe it from the slide I'm looking at, but generally speaking, the size differential is difficult to ascertain from the naked eye. I've been in the industry for 6 years now, and I've worked in a variety of different states. In my humble opinion, it's very difficult to see the difference between a 450-foot turbine and a 525-foot turbine. Visually speaking, again, it's hard to really see that as you're driving past a turbine. But for this specific example, the center point where the three blades meet, that's called the hub. The hub of a 550-foot turbine is actually only 24 feet shorter than a 591-foot turbine. So really where your eye tends to gravitate towards that center point is only 24 feet shorter than a 591-foot turbine. The only difference is the blades of the 591-foot turbine are slightly longer, which is why it's a little bit higher in terms of height. But again, to summarize, from the naked eye, it is quite challenging to see the difference of what a 45-foot turbine would look like, or a 45-foot increase would look like. Really quickly, why wind in McLean County? We built 2 projects. Why the Sapphire Sky project? Well, you all know that it's very windy in McLean County. You have flat agricultural landscape and proximity to large load centers, namely Chicago, Springfield, Decatur, Champaign, and Bloomington Normal. These are areas where there's a large electricity demand, and McLean County is perfectly positioned to provide electricity for that demand. McLean County has the top wind energy producing county title in the state of Illinois. And to that point, the county has generated over $50 million in tax revenue since 2007. That's a huge amount. And it doesn't include the Blooming Grove project, which is taxable starting this year. So we're looking forward to bringing those benefits to McLean. Finally, and most importantly, landowners see significant economic benefits of participating in wind projects. And that's really what is key and crucial to building a project, is a supportive landowner base and community. So Sapphire Sky has 131 landowners participating to date, and 31,000 acres are involved in some way or another in the project. Specifically for Sapphire Sky, I wanted to show a site plan of where we're proposing to build the project. It is, I'll just describe it verbally. It's in the far southeastern corner of the county, really just to the southern DeWitt and Piatt county lines, and then all the way east to the Ford County and Champaign line. The town of Bellflower is really fairly central to where the project is located. In our eventual SUP that we'd like to submit after our hopeful approval of this text amendment, we will be applying for potentially 89 locations as part of the SUP application, but we will only build, I want to stress this, 64 of those locations. The rest are alternate sites to be included in the SUP. Another question I would ask myself if I was on the ZBA is, can you site taller turbines responsibly from an environmental standpoint? Yes, you can. The project has consulted with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, as well as the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and we have done so since 2018. We have coordinated back and forth multiple times throughout that time period. To that point, the IDNR sent a letter to Philip Dick, your own Philip Dick, on February 22nd, confirming the project's commitment to their recommendations and stating that the department has no outstanding concerns with this project. The project also coordinated with your very own ISU professor, Dr. Angelo Caparella. We had a conference call with him and we reviewed all studies that have been performed to date, as well as reiterating our commitment to follow any recommendations from the IDNR. Finally, I'd like to say, by using taller and more productive turbines, the project needs, again, 30 fewer on the landscape and is still able to comply with IDNR setback recommendations and avoid environmentally critical or sensitive setback areas. Another item that I would ask if I was on the ZBA is shadow flicker. Well, what do these taller turbines look like in terms of shadow flicker? Well, we have a consultant, Stantec. They've modeled what the Sapphire Sky project would look like, and their case study included all 89 potential locations. Now again, not all 89 will be built, but we wanted to look at a worst case scenario. What would it look like if all 89 were constructed? We assumed the largest possible turbine height at every single one of those locations. And again, this represents a worst case scenario. The conclusion was, under this worst case scenario, all identified receptors in the project area, which are residences, received less than 30 hours of shadow flicker over the course of the entire year. 85% of those receptors received less than 10 hours over the course of the entire year. So from a responsible siting perspective, this is a really good project, and we're able to make that voluntary commitment of making sure no residence exceeds 30 hours per year in terms of shadow flicker. I'd like to conclude by reviewing economic and environmental benefits of the Sapphire Sky project. Multiple taxing jurisdictions are included in this project area. I'll just quickly highlight them. McLean County has an annual average of payments that will be accrued every year over the life of the project. It also has a 30-year total, which shows the aggregate amount of those annual payments. McLean County will average $250,000 in additional tax revenue from this project. Over the 30-year life, that means $7.5 million just for the county. Leroy School District, and Gary Tipsord, the superintendent, will be speaking a little bit later today. They're going to be a large beneficiary here, $265,000 annually to that school district, and over the life, almost $8 million to that school district. Additionally, Blue Ridge School District, hold on to your hats here, almost $1.2 million annually on average that school district will receive, and over the 30-year life, almost $35.8 million to that school district. So I actually presented in front of that school board a couple of weeks ago, and I asked them, hey, what kind of facilities, or what does this impact mean to the school? The superintendent, Hillary Stanifer, mentioned that they're trying to build a district track facility. They don't have a track facility at this point. That is something that could become a reality, an actuality, if this project is able to move forward. They also are looking to install a restroom facility as well as a memorial plaza at the entrance to the track facility. Again, these are the types of things that the school is already thinking about should Sapphire Sky move forward. Finally, hundreds of union jobs during construction will be created, many fulfilled locally. This is in-state energy generation, providing for long-term stable prices, improved air and water quality resulting from a clean, sustainable energy source. I already mentioned the Leroy and Blue Ridge school districts. 68 landowners have signed letters of support in support of this project. And also we've coordinated directly with the only town in the Sapphire Sky project area, Bellflower. They met as a town and as a board, voted to approve a siting agreement to allow for a number of turbines to be sited within 1.5 miles of their municipal limits. That siting agreement, they have an annual budget of about $100,000. This siting agreement will provide almost 50% of that annual budget as a town. So that's a relationship we're really excited about. We have our field office located in Bellflower, and we're really excited about that relationship and that partnership continuing forward. So thank you very much. We're really excited about the Sapphire Sky project, as you can tell, and we're hopeful we can bring these benefits to McLean County.
Hang on just a second. Maybe we're gonna take a short break. I want to talk to Phil. Give me a call, Phil. We're gonna take about a 5-minute break.
Pollution Control Board hearing is show up there.
Did you guys put this sign-in sheet?
No.
We're gonna come back to order if we can get everybody back.
Yeah, I can help you.
Mr.
I can
Gray,
help you.
Sure, yeah.
we're kind of getting off subject of represent a specific project, and then we're only here to talk about the height. And I think we need to limit this a little bit, or else it's not what we're here for tonight, to approve your project. We're talking about height of a turbine. You want to talk about the impact on what the turbines are for noise and things like that, but we don't want to talk about a specific project. I don't think that's what we're here for.
Okay, I understand, but part of the demonstrating that there are, no noise impacts above and beyond what might be part of another project with shorter turbines is actually doing the modeling to determine what those impacts are. Because without doing that modeling, you really can't answer critical questions on what are these taller turbines, what are the impacts on the community. So that's why we've presented that. We understand you're not approving the project, but it's information we think is pertinent to the impacts of the use of these turbines on the community.
I'm gonna talk to Phil. Phil, you wanna rein in on this?
Yes. The modeling is significant. They want to hear about that. They want to know specifically about how that, the noise and the impact of the shadow flicker, but they're not so concerned about the prosperity of the project with regard to the school district and so forth.
It has no impact on us tonight. Now, maybe if this gets approved and you come back, it's a different thing. I mean, I've heard these before. I know what you're gonna come in with, but that's not our focus tonight.
I understand, but we wanted to be certain that we do have significant support in the community, and that support is also relevant to our text amendment because that's a critical part of the development of the project. So that was the purpose in presenting that. Again, we understand you're not approving a project tonight.
We can just narrow it up a little bit.
Sure.
All right. Thanks a lot. I mean, do you wanna,
I think
do we wanna ask?
Mr. Vandekamp's open for questions now.
Yeah. Now we're gonna go back to questions. Sorry. I just thought we needed to talk about this.
Understood.
Would anyone on the board have questions?
You say that by putting them up in a higher atmosphere that you can use the wind more efficiently. Does that mean that the turbines will be turning faster? And if they're turning faster, won't they create more noise?
It's a good question, and we have Dr. Hankard who will be able to testify specifically to the noise profile of these machines. So I'll let him answer that specific question. But to your initial question, yes, a general rule of thumb is higher wind speed at higher heights, altitude. So these turbines can have a higher or a larger nameplate capacity. So on a per turbine basis, let's use Blooming Grove as an example. Those units were 2.8 megawatts per unit. These units we're proposing to use at Sapphire Sky, using that as an example, would be 4.2 megawatts of electricity per turbine. So they can generate more electricity per unit and be more efficient and more cost effective at those higher heights.
So you say that you could use fewer. Tell me about how your application goes for megawatts. Is your application dependent on how many megawatts you're going to produce on a farm, or can you produce as many megawatts as you want on a farm?
It's a great question. We're limited by what's known as an interconnection position. So we have a 250 megawatt interconnection position. So we're allowed to inject 250 megawatts of electricity. So we can't all of a sudden just build out a bunch more turbines to generate more electricity. We're limited by that specific number. And just to clarify, the eventual SUP application that we'll come forward with there will be 89 locations, but we'll be limited to that 64 number.
Yeah, I'm not concerned with that. Again, we're looking at the text amendment, not the specifics of this particular farm. And, my concern was that even though you come to us with a certain number, that can increase if you've got room or if you've got willing people. So, and the fact that it goes by megawatts answers that question. So it's a matter of we're approving however many it takes to get to that megawatt.
Does the turbine height making them taller help in any way from them becoming frozen?
Sorry, I got a little bit of feedback. I'm guessing you're referring to rumors out of Texas and the purported frozen turbines down in Texas. So Illinois, we have a full operating fleet of wind projects in Illinois. Energy has 10 operating projects. Many of them operate directly within your county or in surrounding areas. So these turbines are able to perform in severe cold weather. They're rated at cold weather and can perform during cold weather conditions. So no, we don't anticipate any significant shortages or electrical outages for turbines of this height. And I'll say maybe more specifically to your question, these larger turbines are some of the most state-of-the-art and highest efficiency and performance turbines available to the market at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whenever we were looking at the last time the 675, how does that, you're proposing a 595 for a 4.2, what would a 675 be able to produce?
That's a good question. I would say the 675 number is more of a projection for what turbine technology could look like 5 years out, 10 years out even. So I don't really know exactly what those turbines could look like. Maybe they could be a 5 megawatt or a 6 megawatt unit. We don't really know, but utilizing today's technology, 4.2 is one of the bigger units on the market today and could be an efficient turbine for this site.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Does staff have any questions?
None from staff.
Would anyone else in the audience have questions of this witness? Won't see anything, so I think we'll move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we ask questions?
Oh yeah, he just asked for questions from the audience,
He said from,
right, from anyone else.
I would like to ask a couple questions.
Look back with you to see. You gotta state your name and address.
Catherine Metzger, 20645 North 825 East Road, Carlock, Illinois.
Surely Phil's got it. Yeah, you can have it.
When you purchased the project from Geronimo, were you aware of the ordinance of 550 feet?
Yes, ma'am.
So you obviously felt the project could be managed at 550 feet.
Our long view is that this project is only viable with taller turbines.
So what you're saying is without these turbines, you're going to not build at all.
The economics of the project
That's not what I asked. I said, if you do not, if this does not get approved, will this project continue?
It is very difficult to
Yes or
continue.
no?
It's very difficult to continue this project without taller turbines.
Then how could you have done the Blooming Grove one at 550?
Those turbines were 2018 technology. At that time, when we
Why
bought
don't you come just a little bit closer? She won't bite you.
I'm happy, but I won't bite it.
At the time of Blooming Grove, we utilized turbine technology that was available at that time for that project. So we used a different manufacturer and a different size turbine because of the availability of those units. The availability and the economics of this site require different turbine technology to be viable. And that includes slightly taller turbines.
So you won't continue the project with 550. So you're telling me 45 feet won't make viability difference?
Turbines don't come in incremental height increases.
Can you still get 550 feet ones?
No, not for this site. First off, I'm not aware of a 550-foot specific turbine. They come in different heights, and you would need a specific Vestas unit, 591, and there are also some V136s at 568 feet. That is what is required and available to us to build this project.
So it's really the availability, because the 550-foot ones were available to build the project in Lexington that just came online, correct?
Those are not 550 feet tall.
They're pretty close to that. Phil, what are those in Lexington that Invenergy just put up? Aren't they 550 feet tall?
I believe theirs are about 500 feet tall.
Yes, sir.
So they're 500, so not at 550, so. And you can't get 550 ones.
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next witness?
Next witness.
All right, our next witness is Michael Hankert. He's online, remote. So Mike, if you can unmute yourself, and why don't you get sworn in? There he is. Get sworn in and then proceed with your testimony, okay?
All right, do you solemnly swear that the testimony is given in the case now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Will you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Michael Hankard, Hankard, and my business address is 211 East Verona Avenue in Verona, Wisconsin, with a V as in Victor.
Is Verona spelled V as in Victor, E-R-O-N-A?
Yes.
I think you can proceed.
Okay, good evening. Yeah, my name is Mike Hankard. I'm an acoustical engineer. I go out and I measure noise from these wind turbines. I run the models. So, you know, I understand the science of this, and I'm here to hopefully answer questions more than bring them up regarding all the different terminology and the difference between the different height in the turbines. And I'll keep my comments focused on the text amendment versus the project, as you guys indicated. So just real quick, who am I? I've been at this for 30 years. I'm an engineer. I've been doing acoustics my entire career, and you know, even as soon as last week, I was out listening to a project that had just gone up in the Midwest. So I'm here to talk about, you know, the difference between these the taller turbines of tomorrow, or well, today, but the modern turbines and what's being designed. These taller turbines turn slower, so that was discussed earlier. The Midwest has actually moderate winds. They're not super strong. They're not weak. They're moderate. And these larger turbines, it's kind of low and slow, if you will. They turn slower. And so just like any fan, you know, wind turbine is like a fan. You can think of your fan, your window fan. You turn it from 1 to 2 to 3, it gets faster, it gets louder. So the modern turbines are actually going in the other direction. They're slowing up. Yes, they're larger, they have longer blades, they're taller, but they're going slower. So that is the primary point I want to make. Secondarily, the blade designs are getting better. As these turbines continue to get built and tested, they've come up with relatively ingenious methods of making them quieter with serrations on the blades, for example. That is something that this project would employ. And then, as was mentioned earlier, there's simply fewer turbines. To make up a 500 megawatt, or excuse me, a 250 megawatt project, you're going to need fewer of these larger turbines. That's simple math. So fewer people living near these turbines. So, you know, I have other information that I can give to the group if you want. I mean, more perhaps in a question and answer format. That, you know, there's the Illinois code, for example, is relatively complex. I can answer any questions with regard to that. There's decibels and dBA and hertz. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody from the board or the audience has with regard to the science and the regulations. But a project like Sapphire, like any project, is going to be designed to meet the regulations. We understand how to do this, how to design them, so that when we go out and we measure, we will meet the regulations. And Sapphire is no different. These taller turbines are no different in that regard. You know, noise is something that everybody actually wants to be minimized. Noise is inefficiency. So if a turbine makes a lot of noise, that means it's doing a bad job. And that's, you know, the manufacturers don't want that, the owners don't want that, the community doesn't want that. So we're all on the same page with that regard. So with that, I open it up to any questions the board or the public has on you know, the difference. Basically, the grand summary of the taller turbines is they're quieter. They're about equivalent to what the old 1.5 megawatt turbines are. It's funny, we've gone from 1.5 megawatts being, say, 104 power level, which is what we call it in acoustics, and they got the noise levels got louder as the turbines got bigger, but then as they got even bigger, they got slower, so they got quieter. So we've kind of come full circle, if you will. So that's the grand summary. Happy to answer any questions.
I've got some follow-up questions, if I can. Mr. Hankard, you performed the noise model for the Sapphire Sky project using these proposed taller turbines, correct?
Yes.
And based on your results, will this project utilizing these taller turbines be able to meet the requirements of both McLean County and the state of Illinois?
Yes.
And when you did your model, you assumed that all of the turbines were the smaller 3.6 megawatt turbines rather than the larger 4.2 megawatt turbines, correct?
Right. So many of these projects, Sapphire, many of the projects I work on are proposed as a mix of turbines for various reasons. So on this project, we simply chose the loudest turbine and assumed that was going everywhere. And even when you do that, we show that you'll meet the regulation.
So you chose the 3.6 megawatt turbine, the smaller turbine, to model because that's actually a louder turbine than the taller 4.2 megawatt turbine, correct?
Yes.
And that's because, why is that? Why is that larger turbine, the 4.2, quieter than the 3.6?
Again, it all comes back to the fact that they turn slower. The larger turbines turn slower. And that simply means that they'll be quieter.
That's all the follow-up questions I had for Mr. Hankard. He'd be available for any questions from the board or the public.
Anyone on the board have some questions for this witness?
Why do they need higher winds if they turn slower?
Well, it's not that they need higher winds. I mean, the wind aloft are higher. You know, the higher you go, the faster the winds. So so they're able to capture that stronger energy. But the machine itself is designed to turn slower. So there's a lot of force being, you know, imparted against those blades to turn them And so that creates a lot of electricity, but that doesn't mean they have to spin fast in order to capture that. It's just the physics of it.
So it's not speed, it's power.
Yes, that's right. I mean, you know, that if you think about it, the grid is pushing back hard. If you were to put your finger in a light socket, you'll know what electricity feels like. It pushes back against you. So the grid is pushing back hard. So these larger machines can counter that and push electricity into the grid, but doing so turning slowly. That's what a big machine gets you.
Also, you said that you've been out measuring active sound patterns on active wind farms. How well are your actual testing matching up to your modeling?
Right. So, you know, it's a great question. It's something that scientists like myself have been studying, and we have dialed it in, if you will. So we now understand how to use our model in its base case, and then we make an adjustment so that we're confident that we'll meet it. And in any project that I design, I'm confident that when I go out, we will get what we thought we'd get. You know, you need to step the turbines back appropriately, whatever it is. Use low noise blades. Use the fewer turbines. However you do it, the model will tell you if you're going to meet the limit or not. And our measurements continue to back it up.
So there have been since the White Oak project, you've come a long way because you had more projects that were active to compare your data against your forecasting. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. So it's more projects, more different turbines, different environments. We're getting better at the physical measurements. Everything, the whole science of it has been improved. And yeah, I completely understand how the model relates to these projects. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Julia?
What I'm concerned about as we raise, you know, if we were to raise the height of this, what you're saying is these particular models are taller and they go slower and they're quieter. And they're quieter because they go slower. Is there any advantage as far as production goes to these larger ones going faster and being noisier? And again, we're not talking about this project. What I want to know is, in general, would there be any advantage to that?
Well, I mean, that's just, I guess if you could probably produce yet more electricity if you were to design a machine that would be big and turn fast. So I think that's what perhaps you're asking. But that's just not where technology's at, and that's not where it's headed. That's not where any of the manufacturers are headed. It is all these low and slow. And then when you look to the offshore world, that's where the turbines are even bigger. And of course, they don't have things like neighbors as much and things like that, so they can get even bigger. And there too, the trend is bigger and slower. So I guess to your point, could they design a turbine that would spin fast and produce a lot of noise and be big? I guess, but that's just not where the world today is headed.
What are the other advantages to it going low and slow other than sound? Do you know? I mean, I know you're a sound expert, but
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't have an answer for that, I guess.
Fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't.
You've mentioned the technology that you utilize in a blade design, it has serrations to improve efficiency and make them quieter. Do you have any other knowledge of the engineering of these blades? Does it make them heavier? Does that create any other hazards for transportation wise? Does it make them less or more recyclable? Do you have any expertise in that, or would that be a question for somebody else?
I mean, I don't have any expertise. I follow the industry. I'm an engineer. I'm interested in such things, and I read about things, and I understand the blade issue of the recycling and whatnot. But no, from an acoustic, there's no relation there with acoustics. My opinions there would only be from one man, if you will.
Is this a one blade? Is it all one piece?
Yes, the modern blades still are just one piece, and that ultimately perhaps they'll start to work on multi-piece blades to alleviate transportation issues. But right now they're one piece blades. The serrations. Those low noise serrations, they can either come from the factory kind of baked in, or sometimes they're added on afterwards, but the effect is the same.
Thank you. Any other questions? Staff have questions?
No.
Okay, we're going to open up to the public. Is anyone in the audience have questions?
I do.
Got one coming. State your name again.
Catherine Metzger. Did you do the modeling for the Blooming Grove project?
I did.
So are you aware that there are multiple complaints that are taking place about the noise, the throbbing sounds that have been taking place since that project went on?
I'm not aware of complaints about throbbing sounds. No, I have not.
And flicker? You don't do flicker, you only do noise, right?
That's correct.
Not just throbbing, but loud noises, especially in January. You were unaware of this, is that correct?
I mean, I am aware that there have been a couple of complaints at Blooming Grove. I don't know anything about the specifics in terms of throbbing or anything else.
But your modeling said everything would be okay, correct?
No, my modeling says that the project will emit noise that meets the law, what we designed, but you can never design out all complaints. That's just not how the world works.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have questions of this witness?
Okay. All right, we have one final witness, Dr. David Lewis.
Okay. Would like to be sworn in or affirmed?
Sworn in.
Okay. You solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this case now in hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Would you state your name and address for the record?
David Loomis, Loomis. My address is 2705 Colby with a K, Kolby Court, Blooming.
Got it? Go ahead.
So
So my name is David Loomis, and I'm a professor of economics at Illinois State University. And I'm also was co-founder and director of our Center for Renewable Energy that we had at the university. And I'm president of Strategic Economic Research, LLC, consulting firm that I run. And I just want to talk about some of the wind turbine trends to affirm some of the things that we've already heard and to kind of extend those from an economics standpoint. We've got 4, if you count Twin Groves Phase 1 and 2 as one unit. We've got 4 wind farms in the county, and you can see the trends even as we look at the dates that those wind farms have been built, kind of the tip height, the number of turbines. So when we go back to Twin Groves, 2007, 2008, you had 120 turbines. Now granted, that's a larger wind farm in terms of megawatts as well. But 2011, we've got White Oak, very similar in terms of scope, but then our 2 more recent one, Brightstock and Blooming Grove in the northeast part of the county, have higher tip heights, higher capacity, lower number of turbines. And that mirrors kind of the trends in the industry. Turbines are getting taller. And I want to point out just a little bit more detail in terms of the reasons for that. When we look at capturing the wind by these machines, you're looking at really 2 key functions. You've got the windswept area, so you look at the circle that's made by these 3 blades, and you're looking at that area, and it's, area of a circle is pi r squared. The radius is pretty much the blade length. So the longer that we have with the blade length, the larger the windswept area that we're going to capture, and the more available power in the wind that we can capture with the turbine. The other factor that we have is the wind speed, and it has been pointed out numerous times by the other presenters that the higher up we go, the higher in general the wind speed is. But I think it's important to look and say the power in the wind is a cubic function of that wind speed, which really means if you were to double the wind speed, you would get 8 times the amount of electricity out, all other things equal, okay? So that's why we're kind of focused on this wind speed issue, is because it is that cubic function. So increases are really going to be amplified in terms of the output. And as we've mentioned, we have larger blades, higher hub height, fewer turbines. But I think the other thing to take into consideration is kind of the economics of the economies of scale that come with these larger turbines. And that's why Greg has said, that it's going to make this project economic for them. We see this generally, there's economies of scale. So as these higher capacity turbines come in that can produce more at these wind speeds, they're also lower cost on a per megawatt basis. And so you can see that the bigger the turbine, generally the cost is going to come down. In fact, at the university, I teach an economics of energy class. We were just going over this. My students have a homework assignment that's due, looking at this very function of economies of scale and why we're getting the turbines to be taller and larger And it is that you're going to reduce the cost, all other things equal. Illinois, McLean County would not be alone in this. And I not have all of the zoning ordinance, a complete list of all the zoning ordinances across all of the counties. But of the ones that I did have, we have, there's 8 counties that have no height limit in their zoning ordinance. There's 4 that just say that it has to comply with FAA regulations, so no set amount. And of those that list a height restriction, it does vary between 500 feet and 699 feet there. I'll also note that there's been at least 4 projects in different counties in Illinois that have approved projects with turbines above 550 feet. Mason County, DeWitt County, Knox County, and Woodford County have all had recent project approvals with turbine heights in the 597 to 600 or more feet. With that, I'm happy to answer questions on that. I know you didn't want to talk about the school benefits and the economic benefits, so I'm just limiting myself to the turbine trends, but I'm available to answer questions on that as well.
Appreciate that. Questions from the board? Go ahead.
Could you tell me what the trends are as far as the size of the megawatts, like the number of megawatts the farms are going? If these turbines are getting larger, are they asking for more megawatts as they do projects for access for more megawatts?
In places where we don't have a lot of transmission constraints, I think that is true that you're seeing some projects that are getting larger in terms of total size. But in Illinois, we're tending to have transmission constraints. And so it's very specific to a particular location and the availability of transmission capacity there in terms of the limiting factor for the size of a wind farm.
This is not related particularly to this request, but is there a point of diminishing returns? I mean, you talk about the efficiency of scale and size. Looking to the future, I guess, is there a point where you stop?
Yeah, there is kind of some natural kind of breaking points, and we see that in terms of, megawatt size and number of turbines that can be, placed. But it's very specific to different areas of the country, whether it be Midwest and your areas here versus out in kind of rangeland in North and South Dakota or Colorado, where there's not a lot of productive uses of the land and things. So it does vary, project size and where those breakpoints are depending on the area of the country that you're looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Doctor, you mentioned the economics of energy, and maybe if you could expand upon the scope of that. I mean, does that include analyzing the other forms of energy at our disposal and comparing the saturation point of wind energy versus other forms? When you factor in opportunity costs of reliability and resources, or is it you're specifically involved with wind energy?
No, so the class that I teach at Illinois State University, we look at all energy types. So we go, look at, oil, coal, all energy in there. It just so happens that we're now in the section on wind energy and solar energy here at the end of the semester. And so we do look at those kind of trade-offs, reliability, and seeing how much wind and solar we can put on the transmission grid. And there's been a number of studies that have looked at that. What is our kind of percentage that we can put onto the grid? I'd say here in Illinois, we're nowhere near where those limits are. If you were looking in, places like Texas, that's way far ahead of us in terms of megawatts installed, they might have to look much more carefully at, what that upper limit is, given current technology.
Thank you.
So you had mentioned earlier that the trend is not for the farms to go larger because there are transmission issues or transmission access issues. And given what you just said, would it be fair to say that Illinois would be looking to expand that access issues and have more access to transmission?
I think there is kind of this movement looking at the need to build more transmission, capacity nationwide, whether and that would, I would include Illinois in that as well. We do need to I think about building more transmission capacity.
Any other questions from the board? Staff, you have a question, Phil?
No question.
Questions? Does anyone else have questions of this witness? Now's the time. Good. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. That concludes our testimony.
Okay, thank you very much. So we can move to the list now. That'd be right, Phil?
Yes, let's move to the list. And then I have some letters that were submitted. I'll do that after we go through those who have signed up.
Have you got the same list I have?
Yes.
Do you want to call the names off?
Louis Wozniak.
Louis Wozniak.
I gotta go. I got people downstairs waiting.
Louis?
Yes.
Yeah, come in.
Send a letter.
Right here to the podium.
Aren't you? Well, I've got people downstairs waiting and we've discussed everything around, so you go right ahead.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, need us to, you're gonna give testimony?
Yes.
Okay. I need to either swear you in or affirm you. Which would you like to do? Like to swear you in or affirm you?
Affirm me, please.
Okay. Do you solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that the testimony you give in this case now in hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, or you suffer the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do to the best of my ability.
That's all we ever do. Would you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Louis, Louis, Wozniak, Wozniak.
Okay, you got that, Bill? You need your address too.
It's 401 C as in cat, County Road 2425 North in Mahomet.
Could
You
you
ready?
repeat the address again, please?
Right, repeat the address?
Yes.
Yes, it's 401 C as in cat, County Road 2425 North in Mahomet.
Thank you.
You can go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to begin with a very brief introduction of myself so that to place me in what I'm about to say. I ended up as an adopted 13-year-old in Benton, Illinois in 1951. I think that many of you, some of you, were not around at that time.
54 on me.
54, a kid. And at the end of that year, early 52, I'm sorry, after years I can't recall, but I do know that there was a mine, Orient number 2, that had a gas explosion that killed some 100 miners. My father was a miner, my adopted father was a miner, but not mine, unfortunately. However, he did die with black lung disease, as most have done. And am I allowed to refer back to something that was said?
You just go ahead and say what you want to say.
Okay. That one occasion of the miners made my drive toward doing something other than becoming the son of a miner that becomes a miner, as was the going rate at the time. And I graduated as valedictorian of my high school class. I received a small tuition and so on. $500. The tuition was $100. Books were $7.
Good old days.
The old days, yeah. Well, anyway, so I attended the University of Illinois. I managed to get bronze tablet there, and I remained for the next 50 years and graduated from professorship after 50 years of functioning there with degrees in mechanical engineering and electrical engineering. That's me. Okay. Having so many years in paying for my retirement all years, and having been, after 30 years, the rest were just overflow. My wife and I, wife that I met at school, decided to buy some farms, 2 of which happened to be very near Bellflower. And that's why I'm here to foster and speak for this project. I had been associated with another wind project some years ago in Champaign County, but Champaign County closed it down. It was at a time when the government wasn't really ready for this renaissance as it is now, but I think that now the time has come, and here we are. I did call 2 of my representatives from Bellflower, and they're I'm not sure that, excuse me, I forgot that I'm 83. Most people think I'm.
I gotta wear them, and I'm younger than you.
Most people think I'm only 82 and a half.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
Jim Seltner?
He's right here.
How do you pronounce that? Seltner?
Soldner.
Soldner.
Silent E.
Okay. And Bill Frederick? Is he here too? No, no. Okay. And we had an exchange, not very long, a short phone exchange, but out of that, I picked up 2 items that deserve some attention. And one of them was, excuse me for not remembering your wonderful voice, but for one of them was concerned about property rights. Okay. Well, we're all concerned with property rights, but property rights also have property obligations. And that's probably the first obligation should be to observe and to yield property rights to others that we wish to have. If we don't do that, then the system collapses. It cannot work otherwise. That was one. The other one was, by the way, together with that, we have to get the concept that wind energy is not a personal property. Wind energy is a community property. It is a community property by the very fact that we're here trying to get the height increased. It's a community property, but by the very fact that the benefit that goes to the village, to the school district, to the county, to the state, and to the United States government when we go to fill out our 1040 forms. Well, anyway, the other was the issue of decommissioning. It was the individual, one or the other, asked me, what do you think about decommissioning? But I had just finished changing my pressure tank, 80 gallons in the basement that had lasted 50 years. And I was lucky to have unions at the right spot, so I could take it out, put the new one in. And being 83, I was not concerned about my new tank. Somebody else will have to worry about that one, not me. Which brings us to the point of wind turbines. Okay, we're talking about a 50-degree increase, but it's hard for me to believe that someone like Verizon, who is knowledgeable of these things, and I preclude myself as being a knowledgeable one, but I can make some observations, and that is that my contract reads 20 years with a renewal and a renewal and a renewal. But believe me, my ashes will turn over into ashes urn if it doesn't last 40 years at least, because it is a major increase in the infrastructure for that particular, for power. It is now being backed by the federal government. Tax things will flow in the correct direction and in the direction that I have deemed correct. And I also think that whoever designed these things, these masts, they must have been thinking that maybe in 20 years, they might want to put a more modern nacelle, not necessarily the nacelle, but what goes inside, which is the generator, and more modern, more efficient turbine. And who knows how the blades will be? You know, give it to an 8th grader. Take it to a class of those, and they will come up with the silliest things, but 1 out of 100 is not going to be silly. So as far as decommissioning is concerned, that's a concern. Okay, so I asked one of the gentlemen back there, I guess they're gentlemen, aren't they? All of them, okay. And he said, but we're paying ahead for the decommissioning. So what's the deal? I don't understand that.
We're just here for tower height and not decommissioning.
Right. If for this tower height, I'm surprised that they're only asking for that instead of asking for something taller, because certainly in 20 years, who knows where the technology will be. And as I say, in 20 years, if that doesn't happen, My ashes will be turning around.
You're only gonna be 105.
Yeah, I know, but my wife is gonna be, forget that. Thank you.
Hang on just a second.
Yes.
Is there any questions from the board for this witness? Ruth's got her mic on. You have a
No, I'm
question?
good. No.
The staff have questions?
No.
Anyone in the audience have questions?
Applicants, do applicants have questions?
The applicants have questions?
It's just like my classes.
I think you're clear to go. We appreciate you coming in.
Thank you. And I appreciate having the opportunity to speak, and
It's America.
you might gather by that I am all in favor of the increase in tile
I got that.
amendment that they're asking.
We're good.
Have a good evening, everybody. Bye.
Who's next, Phil?
Sharon Blackwell.
That was the woman who came in earlier. She had to go, but she's a restaurant owner in Bellflower.
Okay. We're gonna move on.
Patrick Hoban. He was on earlier. He must have left.
Okay.
Lori Sleater.
I'm here.
Okay. I hear you. Okay, we're gonna swear you in if that's all right.
You can hear me but not see me, is that correct?
I think that's right. I don't see you.
Okay, that's fine.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony is given in this case now and hearing will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Will you state your name and address for the record?
Lori Sleater, and that's Laurie. Last name Sleater, S as in Sam, Leeter. And my address, you said, Mr. Dick? Or Mr.
And-
Finnegan?
Yes, thank you.
23903 North, 2900 East Road, in Lexington, Illinois, McLean County.
You get it, Bill? All right, you can proceed.
Thank you. Dear McLean County Zoning Board members, thank you for listening to my following testimony. My name again is Lori Sleater, and my husband and I live near Invenergy Turbines, east of Lexington. The turbine closest to our home is 2,000 feet away, directly west, with another turbine farther west, and over 30 more turbines in each direction. We are requesting that you deny the proposed height increase. One of our many concerns is shadow flicker. Increased height allowances will increase the distance of the shadow flicker and affect more and more rural residences and properties. The turbines near us at 500 feet tall throw an incredibly long shadow and progress in length at sunset. Each evening between 6 and 7 p.m., the shadow stretches up to 2 miles. Yes, 2 miles in length. The length is what we see from our house. It may be longer if viewed from above. We will never forget last March when the shadow of the hub from the turbine to our west was 1/2 mile east of our house. The shadow from the tower alone fell across our home. The shadow flicker of the 3 blades covered the entire square mile in the section east of the turbine. and stretched even farther, possibly into the next section, again, to the east. The bottom of this blade shadow fell across our property. Remember, this turbine is located in the section across the road to our west. So the shadow was in 1, 2, possibly 3 sections, which are 1 mile in length. Another consideration is blade length, which will also increase with this proposal. Our blades at around 208 feet create a lengthy, moving, negative shadow across incredibly wide areas. The shadow also travels north and south as the sun moves seasonally. Even the turbines farther away and to our south create shadow flicker on our property. Turbines at an angle from our property create shadows at sunrise. The shadows I have spoken of so far are outside shadows across our outbuildings and lawn, fields around our house, and down the lane. The flicker inside our home is another matter. The shadow permeates each room, creating a flashing sensation, and is stronger in the rooms to the west. The flicker can be seen through our closed eyelids. Nothing blocks the flashing, no curtains, shades, or blinds. It is quite disturbing. As the weather becomes warmer and we spend more time outdoors, we are dreading these incredibly large shadows racing across our lawn while we mow, across flower beds while we garden, and across us sitting in lawn chairs trying to enjoy the evening. Again, increased height allowances will increase the distance of the shadow flicker and affect more and more rural residences and properties. Please consider the rural residents in the Sapphire Sky project who have no idea about what's going to happen and vote no. Finally, as non-participating rural residents with no financial compensation whatsoever, we are concerned about the amount of time the shadow is permissible to trespass our property. 30 hours per year. As far as we know, Invenergy, the ZBA, and the county board have no plan for us once 30 hours are exceeded. Our turbines have been operational since the first week of November 2020, just over 5 months, and 30 hours are quickly accumulating. What then?
Do we have questions for Mrs. Slater? Staff have questions?
No.
Would anyone in the audience have questions of Mrs. Slater? Don't see any. We appreciate you calling in and telling us this. So
Thank you kindly.
thank you. Next, Bill.
I have no more people on the list. I just have communications that I need to read into the record. There may be someone in the audience who wants to speak.
I've got several on my list that you don't have evidently. Catherine Mesker.
repeat who I am and everything again?
Yeah, I got swearing in this time.
Okay,
You want to be sworn in or?
sworn in, please.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you give in this case now in hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Now you gotta state your name and address.
Catherine Metzger, Metsker, 20645 North 825 East Road, Carlock, Illinois.
You can go ahead.
As many of you probably already know, I live in a project area that Invenergy created back in 2011. And the turbines there are 400 feet tall. There are people in my township who have shadow flicker and constant noise. The closest one to my house is a half a mile. It is to the south, so I don't get flicker. However, the noise is easily heard. There is one to the east of me, which is about 3/4 of a mile, and I do get flicker in my bedroom. But throughout the township, we have multiple people who have this issue. And as Mrs. Sleater identified, as the blades get larger, the flicker gets worse. I also represent the District 1 members that live in Lexington, Chenoa, Yates, and Lawndale Township. And I can tell you the number of complaints that I receive is not appropriate. So we were assured that all of these models were going to be fine and there wouldn't be shadow flicker and there wouldn't be noise, but there is. And for these companies to come in and to tell us that this is going to be all great and good is not the truth. And at some point, I hope that we can convince our Zoning Board of Appeals to stop this madness and believe the residents who live in the townships that are experiencing this. I think Mr. Dick will tell you that he gets complaints also, at least from the people in the Blooming Grove project. The ones that are in White Oak, we got tired of complaining. And so we quit. And we're just tired and we just tolerate it. Is that what we should do? Is that the expectation? So the one gentleman said that noise is bad. That's a bad project. Well, I hate to tell you, but Invenergy has bad projects.
Thank you. Anyone on the board have questions?
Had a quick question. Has anyone ever come out and measured your energy or your flicker or your noise or your flicker? And what is the results been of that? Because you had said that there would be no noise and no flicker, that they tell you there would be no noise and no flicker. I've never heard that said. I've heard that it would be a limited amount of noise at a certain level and flicker at a certain level.
They have never, ever done that.
Okay, thank you.
The people in Lexington requested it being done, but they're going to do it probably in July. That's not when it's noisiest. It's horrible. I went out and spent only about a half an hour in Lexington it was in Lexington Township, I guess, in January, and the noise and the vibration is just intense. And if you have to live with that, it all sounds fine because, oh my goodness, it's going to be okay and it won't bother you. You have to live with it every single day. So these models are telling us that it's all fine. It's not fine. It isn't fine. And this county doesn't spend the money to follow up and find out that it's not fine. It's insulting.
Questions from staff?
No.
Anyone in the audience have questions? The applicants have questions?
No.
Okay. Thank you. You're up next.
Me?
Your name's on the list.
My name's on the list. That's, you got it right.
You want to be sworn in?
Sworn.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you've given in this case now in the hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Will you state your name and address for the record?
James Soldner, 201 South Main Street, Ellsworth, Illinois. I live in the Twin Groves wind farm area. We were the first wind farm in McLean County, I think maybe in all of central Illinois. We have flicker, we have noise. Personally, I have never got one complaint. Now, I haven't been out asking people either, but they know that I'm their county board member, their representative. I think Dawson Township, like Bellflower Township, like Cheney's Grove Township, is different than White Oak Township. We are more rural. We have more farms, I believe, in our area. I also think that the towers, the nacelles are different than what White Oak has. Twin Groves has the Vestas nacelle. So again, I'm not saying there isn't flicker and there's not noise, because there is. I know in one or two cases in the Twin Groves program, they did some landscaping for a couple of individuals. They put up some arborvitae or whatever to help mitigate the flicker. And as I said, I think that, I don't know if there's a formal study being done, but I do believe that, you know, townships areas are different. So I'm not doubting what Catherine has said. I believe her completely. And I've had complaints from people in Lexington and from the other wind farms, but I haven't got any in my area. So anyhow, I just wanted to pass that on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board for Mr. Soldman? Staff?
No.
Applicants? You have any questions? I think you're okay.
All right.
Appreciate it. The other name is Channel. I don't think I pronounced that right, but yeah, I saw him here earlier, but I don't see him here now.
Can anybody hear me?
Caller one.
Caller 2.
This is Tim Jolly. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yep.
You can hear me. Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to tell you that I've tried to get online. Go ahead.
If you're going to do testimony, I have to swear you in.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this case now and hearing be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Then you need to state your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name's Tim Jolly, Jolly, Rural Route 1, Chenoa.
Could you give us your address, please?
I'm on 2700 North Road.
Do you have an address that you would like to leave?
No, I would not like to leave my specific address, please. I don't think that's been a requirement in the past.
You go ahead.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I've had nothing but trouble trying to get hooked up to the internet and on the computer and to be able to see what's going on with everybody. I haven't been able to ask any questions of any of the witnesses that have been there because of that. I should probably apologize that at one point that there was something that I think my mic may have come on, and absolutely nothing was meant because of it. The thing that I have a problem with is just because, and we're going to address it there, the taller windmills coming in. The windmills that are in the Invenergy project are under 500 feet out here in my area. I'm right in the heart of the EDP project, which is just under 550 feet in this project area. I have 6 windmills within 1 mile of my house, and I am convinced that it's directly affecting my internet service and everything that's going on around us. We have several people in this area that can no longer pick up local TV stations because of the taller windmills in this area. The taller windmills are not the answer. They think that the technology is coming on to make these bigger and better, but the bigger and better they are, the more noise and the bigger problems you have. Tonight I can walk out my back door and the noise is horrendous. You don't understand what it's like to live here. You think this is the answer for the future, but whenever you look at these things that are monsters on the horizon, are doing nothing but tearing up the people's lives that live out here. I am a non-participant in the contracts that these people offer. So I get not one red dime, where other people that sign up for these things can get upwards of $25,000 or even more per windmill on their property. But I get not one penny, but I yet have to live with it. We've had several instances of these big monsters. Last Labor Day, 3 of them had blades break off, and they caused a lot of damage in the area. We now have 2 windmills down from where my house is. The big crane that set them up is being set back up. This windmill's been out of commission for a month. Why? They won't tell us. But yet that don't stop the noise from the rest of them around us. We don't know what kind of safety issue we have with these bigger things. The things you don't understand is just increasing the blade height does not necessarily lower the number of windmills that are going to be put in a project. They say it now, but right now it's in the works for EDP to increase a phase 2 to increase the number of windmills in my area. So how fair is that? Let's cram them in between the other ones because we already got them in and we say it's a safer distance. I have one 2,000 feet behind my house. It's unbearable in January, as Catherine Metzger said. My wife had to leave this house to make sure that she could cope with what was going on. I was woke up 5 times overnight, Thanksgiving night last year, because of the noise and the reverberation. This is real. This is not the answer. The future of green energy, so-called, is all in money. It's not what is good for the environment. You are ruining our climate to say, you're ruining our environment to save the climate. So I'm telling you that the increased blade height, the increased size of these things, they're just going to make things worse. Mr. Seldner made some comment that he has no comment or complaint from people down in his area. Those are about almost half the size of these. Of course he wouldn't have complaints. Just because they say that they're turning slower, that means that the hub, when you put a blade out there 300 feet, that tip of the blade is moving faster than it was before. I almost guarantee you. We have to be able to make our calls here locally. Right now in the process is companies like Invenergy that are trying to change the entire landscape of how we make our decisions in the county level and put it to the state level. And Invenergy is probably paying people to try to convince the politicians to take the control away from the companies. So listen to the people of your company and keep it here at home and let you know that we do not agree with these increased heights. They should not be increased, and you should adhere to the people that have to live amongst it, not people that have studies in universities and that say that what they're going to say because it helps the company. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Do you have any questions from the board for Mr. Jolly? Staff?
No.
The applicants have questions?
No.
I think you're off the hook, Mr. Jolly. Thanks for
I
calling in.
appreciate your time. And I know you'll make the right decision, please. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have for my list.
Is there anyone in the audience who wanted to speak? I have some letters that I need to introduce because as a remote public hearing, we advertised that people who wanted to send communication regarding this application were allowed to do that and that they would be presented at the zoning public hearing. I have a letter here from Michael and Ellen Rudisil. Says, Dear Phil, as landowners in Bellflower Township, we would like to offer our sincerest support for the windmill project being proposed by Invenergy for the areas being considered. Our family is a firm believer in the advantages being afforded by the project. The concept of alternative energy sources is becoming more vital to our ecosystem and economy with each passing year. Obviously, we see the monetary benefits to our family with the installations being permitted. However, just as important are the funds being generated for our township and school districts. The recent COVID pandemic has had a devastating effect on so many taxing bodies, and we'll feel strongly about the attributes of this project. Next letter is from Mark A. Morris. I am the 5th generation operations manager for a family farm near Bellflower. Members of my extended family have separate operations that border our land. They are also participants in the Sapphire Sky Wind Project. As in past generations, my family and I view our role in OMH Family Farms, LLC as one of the stewardship that will continue to keep our family-owned farming operation viable into the 6th generation and beyond. We have learned a lot about the benefits of leasing our property for wind energy and are excited to be participating in this endeavor. This project represents a way to diversify our income and secure a stable financial revenue stream into the future. As a landowner, OMH Family Farms is exercising its property right when deciding how to use our land in a way we believe represents the best opportunity for us. We are also thankful that once the wind project is done, our family can continue to farm the land as we did previously. This project will work hand in hand to keep our land in agricultural production. Beyond the benefits of OMH, family farms will realize from this project, we anticipate that the community will see an increase in job opportunities during construction and operations. Likewise, this project should provide an enhanced environment for fostering the introduction of new businesses in the local area, as well as the growth of existing ones. In addition, there should be a positive economic impact to McLean County from the millions of dollars in annual property taxes that the project will pay. The members of OMH Family Farms LLC support Sapphire Sky Wind. I'm asking you to approve the text amendment and special use permit which bring this project to fruition. Thank you for your consideration. Mark A. Morris, Operations Manager, OMH Family Farms. Dear Mr. Phildick, I am participating landowner in Invenergy's proposed wind project. We have learned a lot about the benefits of leasing our property for wind energy and are excited to be participating in this endeavor. This project represents a way to diversify our income and secure a stable financial revenue for our family to have a better future. As a landowner, I am exercising my property rights when deciding how to use my land in a way I believe represents the best opportunity of our family. I am also glad that once the wind project is done, my family can farm the land as we did previously. The project will work hand in hand to keep our farm ground in agricultural production. Beyond the benefits my family will get from this project, the community will see jobs during construction and operations. I support Sapphire Sky Wind. I would like to ask you to approve the text amendment and special use permit, which will bring this project to fruition. Thank you for your consideration. Cecilia V. Beecher. Dear Mr. Dick, I am the manager of our family farm LLC, the Hazel Crumbaugh Dooley Family LLC. This land has been in my family for well over 100 years. We are a small family, and while none of us are actually living in the area, we are and always have been strongly committed to carrying out our family legacy by being good stewards of this incredible treasure. The opportunity to contribute to both the national and regional economy as active participants in Invenergy's proposed wind energy project is most appealing. In addition to our ability to continue to grow crops, we'll be doing our part to help mitigate the devastating effects of climate change. The additional advantage of diversifying our own income most certainly has additional appeal. We ask that you approve the text amendment and special use permit in order to allow the Sapphire Sky Wind project to come to fruition. Diana P. Wade, Manager, Hazel Crumbaugh Dooley Family LLC. I received a whole bunch of letters here. I'm not going to read them all because they're duplicates, but I will read one of them and I will tell you who sent one of these. And these were all individually sent and individually mailed to this office. I'll go through the list. Eric Zare, Gary March, R. Kirk Swigert, Larry Brossman, Cole and Wendy Dooley, Janice Priest, Betty J. Christensen, Rich Schrader, Joan Ruth Harrigan, Dean and Janice Summer, Tim Young, Lee A. Bigner, Emily Maurer, Sheila Murphy, Donald and Brenda Wallace, Michael and Vicki Bowman, William Abbott, Becky Kuntz, David Bright, Mary Jo Copenhagen, Diana Schultz, John Jacobson, Peggy J. Jones, Terry and Gloria Stevens, Stephanie Horner, Brian Zaire, Joe Allen Parks, James Huddlestone, Mark F. Schultz, Merle Woods, John Maurer, David McLaughlin, Jeffrey Zaire, Warren J. Bain, Nancy Malone, Malon, Carl Swigert, Velda Swigert, William J. Giles, David and Diana Efaw, Royal and Beverly Springer, Philip and Charlotte Lawrence, Keith and Dina Swigert, Brian and Angela Archman, Russell and Justine Myers, Janet Jones, Susan Sears, William and Virginia Forrest, Stacy and Jeffrey Turner, Mike McLaughlin, Vernon Golden, Mark and Judith Wallace, Lloyd and Loretta Power, Gretchen Ostenberg, Lethea Barnett, Sharon Blackwell, Rita J. Flint, Donald L. Owen, John Schmidt, Arthur R. Williams Trust with First Midland Ag Services Agent, and Paula S. Stencil. This is the letter that each of them sent and signed their own name to it. Dear Mr. Feldick, I am a participating landowner in Invenergy's proposed wind project. We have learned a lot about the benefits of leasing our property for wind energy and are excited to be participating in this endeavor. This project represents a way to diversify our income and secure a stable financial revenue for our family to have a better future. As a landowner, I'm exercising my property rights when deciding how to use my land in a way I believe represents the best opportunity for our family. I am also glad that once the wind project is done, my family can farm the land as we did previously. The project will work hand in hand to keep our farm ground in agricultural production. Beyond the benefits my family will get from this project, the community will see jobs during construction and operations. Additional businesses spring up in the local area, as well as the positive economic impact to McLean County from the millions of dollars in annual property taxes that the project will pay. I support Sapphire Sky Wind. I would like to ask you to approve the text amendment and special use permit, which will bring this project to fruition. Thank you for your consideration.
Did you have anything else, Phil?
I do not.
So at this time, can we go to rebuttal?
Yes.
The applicants have any rebuttal?
Yes. Yeah, Mr. Vanderkamp, there was some testimony about shadow flicker impacts of the taller turbines. A study has been done for the Sapphire Sky project that utilized the taller turbines that are being proposed, correct?
Correct.
And what were the results of that study? And that's been submitted as an exhibit to the ZBA. Can you just summarize those results for us?
Sure. So we looked at the 89 turbine locations as part of the Sapphire Sky project. Again, only 64 are being proposed to being built. We assumed the largest possible turbine at each one of those locations and modeled the aggregate shadow flicker on all receptors within those shadow flicker distances. So based on that case study analysis of utilizing these taller turbines, no resident or no receptor in the project area received more than 30 hours. In fact, the majority, a large majority, 85%, are receiving less than 10 hours annually as part of that project. So taller turbines, yes, they are taller. Yes, they have larger blades, but that doesn't mean they can't be sited in such a way that significant shadow flicker will be impacted on those residents. And we can commit to less than 30 hours for every resident in the shadow or in the project footprint.
And when the project is built, as you testified, it would only have 64 turbines that would actually be installed. So the actual shadow flicker, am I correct, will be less than what's modeled?
Yes, that is correct. We looked again at the worst case scenario if all turbines were built. If only 64 turbines were built, those impacts would be significantly less, almost 30% less turbines would be in the footprint, and we would expect significantly less shadow flicker.
That's all the rebuttal we have. Thank you.
Excellent. Questions about the rebuttal from the board? I've got one. When did you do the study? Did you do an all year round study, or is it flicker different for different types of, different months of the year when the sun is a different? I mean, I'm just asking.
No, it's a great question, and yes, there are. The sun obviously moves in different locations within the sky at different points in the season, fall, spring, summer. We'll have different locations of the sun in the sky. That will change the profile of the shadow, and especially in the morning, it'll cast a shadow to the west. In the evening, it'll cast a shadow to the east. So that ultimately changes the profile of the shadow as well as annual changes based on the seasons. But even still, we modeled all those characteristics as well as annual cloud cover, annual metrics in terms of meteorology in the area. And this study is the resulting effect. Again, less than 30 hours shadow flicker on any receptor.
But it would be for a year-long period.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Bangert, have a question?
Yeah, I'm just curious. I personally have never experienced 30 hours of shadow flicker. I'm curious, in your research, have you subjected yourself to this type of exposure? I mean, it does raise questions for me, considering the extreme angle of the sun during the winter solstice versus the summer solstice. It's gonna reach a lot farther. So my question, I guess, is, have you experienced this? Because I have not. And we've heard that it can disrupt sleep and whatnot, but or enjoyment of the home. But what do you say about that?
I personally do not live near a wind project. I have worked on wind projects for the last 6 years and spent significant time in there around wind projects. I could attest that numerous health studies have been conducted on this exact effect that you are referring to, and no health effects have been resulted from these studies. They have found no link to health effects based on shadow flicker. No, I have not. I don't live in a wind project, but those are the peer-reviewed study results that are available to date.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mary Beth.
Am I understanding correctly that because they're taller, they're going to have to be further away from any home?
Yes, ma'am. So the McLean ordinance it has some good foresight. They looked at this when they implemented the ordinance, and they made setbacks a function of height. So as the towers increase, they have to proportionally get farther and farther away from residences, property lines, roads, transmission lines, all the above. So yes, these larger turbines will be set back farther than any other turbine to date in the county.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kurtz?
If your modeling goofs up and somebody gets more than 30 hours worth of flicker, what type of resolutions do you have that you put in it that you can do to take care of and mitigate these situations?
Sure. Well, we would bring in a consultant if that situation ever came up. We'd work with that specific landowner, do additional modeling during operations, work with that specific landowner on a solution that makes sense for them as well as the project, and address that issue if it arises. But based on this modeling, we're not anticipating any of those situations to arise whatsoever.
And do you know, has your company run across one of these situations?
To my knowledge, we haven't run into any of these situations where we've exceeded the modeling that we projected prior to construction.
Thank you.
Could one remedy be that you would shut the tower down or the turbine down when flicker would occur at a certain time of the day?
If it was deemed that significant amounts of shadow flicker over a 30-hour commitment or a zoning ordinance that set a set limit, if it was deemed that shadow flicker was going beyond that, that could be one of the options to alleviate that concern.
If I can ask a question, the shadow flicker, I mean, with respect to impacting people's homes, wouldn't it be a function of where you put the, I mean, and I know we're not talking about a specific project, but wouldn't the shadow flicker be impacted by where you put where you located the tower?
Yes, so
correctly?
it's a good question, and you're driving at a good inquiry or line of questioning. Yes, where the turbine is located in proximity to the house. So I mentioned at dawn,
yes.
The sun rises in the east, it'll cast a shadow to the west. So if there's a house to the west at dawn, that could potentially see some shadow flicker if the turbine wasn't situated correctly. Similarly, at dusk, a turbine would cast a shadow to the east. So if there is a house to the east, there could be some impacts to that house. But again, the way we've modeled it and we accommodate for both of those scenarios, no houses would receive more than 30 hours per year.
What challenges do taller towers present with your modeling?
The fundamentals of the model are the same. It's not like these turbines are any different than a typical or historical turbine. The blades are a little bit longer, and the hub height is slightly taller. So that would be the only difference, as opposed to like the Blooming Grove project or a different project like that. So we would need to model that the shadows might be cast slightly farther or in slightly different directions based on those dimensions of the turbine. But all those dimensions have been incorporated into this case study.
How long does flicker occur, like in the morning or in the evening in general?
It's difficult to say. I would say it depends on where the sun is in the sky, for how long it's near the horizon. At what point is it at the center of the sky where there would be very little shadow whatsoever, or shadow flicker whatsoever. It really is dependent on the season as well as the location of the turbine.
You didn't answer that question.
It's tough to put an hour.
There's no, it all depends on the location of the turbine in relation to the residence. So you could have a location that gets, say, numerous minutes, or you could have a location that just gets a minute or several seconds, a day. It just depends on the model. And
But your modeling should have told you
it can't.
amount to use, and that's.
It can't. The model can't tell you that to that degree of specificity. Yes.
Am I correct in that the windmill kind of changes positioning, the actual turbine changes positioning dependent on the direction of the wind?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It tends to rotate in order to capture the full energy value out of the wind, depending on where that wind is coming from.
So how do you account for that in your modeling?
With a flicker.
That would be a Julian question.
Using historic weather patterns. So you're able to identify where the wind is likely to be coming from based upon, various, guides that you have that are utilized. So you have very accurate predicted wind data and very accurate predicted weather data over the course of time because you've got, decades and decades of weather data to draw upon in preparing that.
But with these larger blades, you don't have decades and decades of, I assume that the larger blades would position themselves a little bit differently given the size, the smaller one would, into the wind, that it may be a little bit different positioning. Is that the case, or is it always head on?
It is not a function of the size of the turbine. Wind speed or wind directionality is coming from a specific direction. The fundamentals of a turbine, whether it's 100 feet tall or 500 feet tall, are the same. So they would similarly rotate to capture that full energetic value.
So you can project out and account for the difference in size in your model and use the same data accounting for the different size of the blades.
Correct. And to that point, we've had multiple wind measurement mass at this site to understand better the wind directionality as well as the wind speeds across this site. So we have significant data, yearly data at this site, as is true for all wind projects.
Touching back on the winter solstice, let's go back to the shortest day of the year. If we're looking at a blade height of 595 feet versus 550 feet, there's 45 feet of additional blade length. What is the shadow flicker distance change when you add 45 feet to a blade? It's not one for one. What is the new distance that the shadow flicker reaches now with an added 45 feet?
Are the blades 45 feet long, longer?
Yeah, keep in mind that although there's an extra 45 feet, at least for a residence, it's now going to be 3 times further away from that, or 3 times 45 further away from that residence. So even though it's going to be further removed, the turbine is going to be at a further distance from the residence. So you have to factor in all that information.
Right, but so with the modeling that you've done, 45 feet of additional, how much further does that reach now in distance? I'm just trying to get a feel for that because, are we adequately accomplishing a setback because of the additional, because it's not a 1-for-1, 45 feet of tip. And I don't know the math. So that's why I'm asking, what is the math of 45 feet of additional blade length on the distance that it reaches now because of that? And is the setback sufficiently taking care of that, or does the math need to change?
Well, I don't think your setback was ever created based upon shadow flicker. So I don't think your 3 times height standard is based upon shadow flicker. So I don't, we are not, Greg and I aren't able to answer that question. You want to see Joanne answer that?
Yeah, it looks like she's
Yeah, we have Joanne Blank who did the shadow flicker report. Joanne, are you with us and able to unmute yourself?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you, Joanne. Did you hear Mr. Bangert's question and can you answer it?
I've been listening all along and you two have done a pretty good job. So the question that you have, Brian, it is difficult to answer because it's gonna change.
Hold on, so the chairman can swear you in, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this case now and hearing be the truth, whole truth, nothing but truth? So help you God.
I do.
And would you state your name and address for the record?
Joanne, JOANNE, blank, BLANK. And I'm at, I have to think because I was going to give my home address, 1165 Shearing, SCHEURING Road. And that's De Pere, DE, Wisconsin, 54115.
Could you spell that address again, please?
Sure. It's Shearing, SCHEURING, Shearing.
Shearing, and then what?
Road, and that was De Pere, DE, PERE, Wisconsin.
Thank you.
You can go ahead.
Thanks. So Brian, to answer your question, they were going in the right direction with it. It's hard to say a distance, and in order to think about it, you have to think that the sun is constantly shifting in the sky. So you're right, the longer blades are going to throw a little bit longer shadow. But generally when it's going to throw the longer shadow is going to be when the sun is really low. It starts to dissipate through the atmosphere. And so even though it will go a little bit further, it's gonna kind of change as the sun is coming down, the angle changes. I'm trying to show it and I'm not doing a very good job here. But so your distance is going to be on the quicker passing time of the shadow at the very end of the day, at the very tips of the blades. And your setbacks that you're talking about are going to help out a little bit with some of the higher shadow nearby, but the setbacks themselves are not going to affect the overall shadow on the distances. So you have to just kind of think, I guess what I'm trying to go with that is that you just have to think about the fact that the sun is constantly moving in the sky. So that distance is dependent on on the angle with the blades. And so there's not a set distance that you can say.
So what you guys are saying is you're still going to have to model and make sure that flicker isn't impacting different homes, and that we can't account for that setback. Right now, we don't have setback for flicker. You guys mitigate that through your modeling.
Yeah, the setbacks are not necessarily distance. They're not a set distance. It's not like sound. So the setbacks really don't help. They don't make that much difference with the shadow. The modeling tells us within 1 minute increments where we expect the shadow to be. And the model has definitely been done for this taller turbine with the longer blades. And as Greg and Jim have said, We are modeling that there are no residences expected to receive more than 30 hours of shadow per year. And that's with a full 89 turbines, and which is another point that I think is really a great one to make, and that is that, you know, with the taller turbines, you're only going to have 64 turbines. That is going to cut down the overall shadow by quite a bit.
I have a question. In your modeling then, you're averaging all 64 together and saying that one could have more than 30 hours or none can have more than 30 hours?
No, there's no averaging at all. This is done very specifically with the location of the turbines, the location of the residences, and the location of the sun in the sky every minute of daytime hours for a year. And then we do use historic meteorological data to estimate the direction of the wind. You know, so that we can. That is the one part that's averaged, just kind of the average of what direction the wind is coming from at a certain time of year. But no, that's very specific. It's not an averaged amount for all the turbines. It is specifically done for every receptor.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
How about do you factor it as it's sunshine for the entire period, so that if it's a cloudy period of time, or do you factor that in with what the average cloud cover is in the area?
We do. We use historical data for that also on a monthly basis. So in December, the sun only shines about 30 to 35% of the year. Versus in the summer, it is quite a bit more. So that is put in as a monthly statistic, and that is taken into consideration in the 30 hours.
So is flicker more the issue in the winter months than it is in the summer months anyway, and so because you have the sun never shines here in Illinois in the winter anyway, it doesn't seem like. So do the clouds help in this 30 hours because that's the worst time for it because of the low sun, but because of cloud cover, they help offset it?
It does. I mean, there's all of those variables come into play. So you're kind of thinking along the right lines, though, that the sun doesn't shine as much in the winter, but the sun is lower in the sky. However, people aren't outside, and there's all kind of variables, and not that those variables are necessarily taken into how much people are outside aren't taken into account, but it certainly comes into play. That in the summer people might be out enjoying their front yard more. But definitely the hours that the sun is shining come into play, and the angle of the sun in the sky.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions, Phil?
No.
Do you have any other rebuttal?
No, we don't.
Okay, I think this is probably about where we're gonna stop tonight. I think we're figuring on coming back tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, April 7th at 7 o'clock. Is that right, Phil?
Yes, and I need to know how many board members want to attend in person, because we have to arrange laptops for you if you want to come in.
I had said I would be in, but if we have to have laptops, I'll just stay home.
They have laptops here.
No, I just mean laptop. So we'll be in different rooms. Is that what you're saying? We won't be sitting at our table normally or anything like that?
You won't be sitting at your table normally, but there will be a laptop for you, but we just need some advance warning for them to be able to have them available. So you could do it if you want. I just need to know tonight.
No, I won't do that.
And I will be remote as well.
We're gonna start right
I'm
I'll be
available.
I'm remote.
I'll probably try to come in, Phil, especially because it rains.
here. When we stopped.
Okay,
Have
so,
someone come see me.
Objectors to ask questions.
so Rick and Jim, you'll be in, the rest will be remote, is that correct?
Right.
I will email you a link to the meeting, and anyone else who wants an email link to the meeting may get that from me.
Well, you're thinking about coming in, Brian? No.
No, I'll stay remote.
All right, we need a motion then to recess tonight till April 7th at 7 o'clock. Let me want to make that.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Turner and Kurtz. So I think we're going to recess tonight and we'll be back tomorrow night. Reconvene.
Will it be on the same Zoom link?
No, it will not be the same Zoom link. I'll send you a new one.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And I'll send it to you tomorrow. But could we have a roll call vote on the continuing? And who made the motion again? I didn't get it down.
Turner and Kurtz, just made a second.
Taylor?
Yes.
Bangert?
Yes.
Kurtz?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Finnegan?
Yes.
Novosad?
Yes.
Motion carried.